Has anyone seen Silence of the Lambs? The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He'd love to have you for dinner.
Friday, the final day of the week. These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edifications, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Oh, Kent's Movie Club. It's El Kent's Movie Club. El Kent's Movie Club. It's El Kent's Movie Club.
Once again, it is that time to welcome in our good friend Kent Wolgamon of the Lincoln Journal-Star. How you doing, Kent?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Good.
Not bad, though. I was very distraught when I heard about Hannibal's passing last night.
The late great.
Yeah. It's strange how you can sometimes find out news from the most unlikely sources.
It really is.
I had no idea it was going to happen at a political speech, but hey, you know, news is news.
News is news.
And I wonder if anybody's informed Anthony Hopkins.
Seriously.
By the way, Silence of the Lambs, a former movie club feature.
Used to be on the wall of random.
Also, how about that number? 196? We are getting so close to movie number 200.
Yes, we are.
Is going to be John's.
Wow. Listen to the disappointment in Nick's voice. He really wanted himself to have movie number 200.
I just wanted to finally get John to understand that Fellowship is a great movie.
Well, after what I saw last night, I don't know if we should be watching that movie anymore. But that's another story for another time. By the way, I've already got a great picture picked out for number 200.
Oh, do you?
Picture.
That's what they call them.
No,
Pictures. Pictures.
We want to watch movies. You want us to stare at a painting for 2 hours?
They're called motion pictures. But this week's motion picture was on Netflix.
Yes, it was. Hitman, the newest film from Richard Linklater, stars Glen Powell as a character named Gary Johnson, who is a professor at the University of New Orleans. He also works with the New Orleans PD. And
did you know that this was based on a true story?
Had no idea until we started it. I didn't know anything about the movie. Like, the title makes me think that it was going to be about a hitman. And instead, it is about a person who pretends to be a hitman, and he solicits confessions, and then the police department is able to arrest him. And he, the main character, Gary, this character played by Glen Powell, he stumbles into it accidentally because the regular guy at the police department, he gets suspended. And that character was also very interesting throughout the movie, and I should have written his name down. That character was Jasper, another undercover cop.
He looked like a Jasper.
And so he's going through, there's like this great bit early when the main character is trying on all these different costumes and, you know, being different characters as he tries to solicit the confessions from these various other characters, and then finally stumbles upon this woman, wants to kill her husband. He basically talks her out of it because he is probably interested in her.
Smitten with her.
Off to the races we go. Kent, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought that it was ridiculous in all of the best ways. I don't certainly want to give away the ending. I thought that the ending was incredibly ridiculous, and I very much enjoyed how ridiculous it was. It's very much winking at the audience. And it's one of those movies that, again, now Glen Powell, I had first seen him in the new space airplane movie. What's the airplane movie?
Top Gun?
Top Gun. Thank you, Nick. That was the movie that I'd never seen him before that. And now it's like this guy, Twisters is coming out today. This guy's obviously on his way to being like a massive, massive star.
He's like the next Ryan Gosling in looks. Like, he's just like
very handsome man.
The next Hollywood looking kind of archetype of that guy.
Okay.
This is a movie star movie
Yeah.
that makes him a real movie star. Okay. And by that, here's what I mean. This is a vehicle not unlike those that came in. You can go as far back as like Paul Newman and Robert Redford, but the real comparison, I think, is there in 90s movies. It's how Matthew McConaughey became a movie star. It's also a little bit Tom Cruise. It's a sort of what would you say, middle brow, as they call it, movie. It's really a romantic comedy set around this, is what it is. And it's not a franchise. It's not, there's not going to be a sequel, all of that. It's a standalone movie aimed at an adult audience or an older audience, not for teenagers, right? And it depends 100% on the main actor being somebody you want to watch, entertaining you, and he's spectacular at it. And this pumps him up to that level. And this is, if you have followed his career at all, let's put it this way, he's been around for like 20 years and just could never quite get there. And he co-wrote this movie with Linklater for himself to make him able to show himself off as, really? Yeah. So he's a co-writer, and I'm not going to get too much into the specifics so as not to give anything away, but based on is absolutely loosely, and they go out of their way. That first title is, this is somewhat based on a true story or something. Mm-hmm. Okay, here, I'm like I said, I'm not going to give everything away. So, but the guy was actually in Houston, not in New Orleans. He actually worked for the police department and taught school at night. So he wasn't this mild-mannered college professor turned hitman impersonator. It was the reverse. He was the hitman impersonator who happened to teach college at night. Okay. But they flipped all that around to make this movie, which tells you how smart he was, because Linklater said there's no movie here, and he said yes there is. Here's how we do the movie. Well, he learned that because since he was a little boy, he was in Space Kids. Was that what that series?
Spy Kids 3D.
3. And apparently when he was on the set, he did the whole time following around like the cinematographers and the and learning about movies. And apparently he knows more about how movies are made and than almost any actor. And this is his time, as you said, because he also had that terrible romantic comedy with Sydney Sweeney last year or the year before that, Anyone But You. The movie is terrible, but he was really good in it.
How common is this? Because you mentioned that this was his attempt to kind of break out, in which he also wrote the picture or helped co-write the picture in an effort to try to break out. I mean, you mentioned, this was a movie to help make someone a star. Can you think of another example where that same actor co-wrote the picture or had a major role in the picture to try to break himself out?
Not directly this way. You think about, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck writing, the Good Will Hunting. You think Stallone writing Rocky, all of those, but they weren't in that same place, right, in their career where they like struggled to get up, 20 years into a career. He's 30, mid
35. He's 35.
And so, he's been in it. He moved to LA. He quit school at UT. He's from Austin, in his freshman year. So he was in LA for 15, 16 years before he made it. That's really a long time, but he got to know everybody and was able to pull this off. And Linklater has kind of made his career for him as well. He's been in several of his movies.
Yeah, he is so magnetic, and he gets to play so many different characters. Like there's that stretch in the early portion after he's the first hitman, and immediately he's having fun, and he's really goading this person into giving up the game. And then after that, he's always doing all this research, and so every time then he meets a new person who is in theory going to hire him to do the hitman job, he is leaning more and more into character work. And the funny part about this is he's like this super nerdy professor. Like when you see him teaching the class, he is a very nerdy person. Well, this character that he creates that kind of takes over the rest of the movie,
Ron, right?
Ron, thank you. I couldn't remember what it was. There's a moment where he starts dressing like the Ron character in class, and one of the students goes like, "Is he hot now? Is Mr. Johnson hot now?" And like, I just thought that was like a great commentary on this guy at the beginning. Looks like a complete dork wearing jorts around his horrible shirts, and then that Ron character is just very relaxed, very suave. And I thought that he did a really good job as that guy.
I did really like the really quick switch he did toward the end of the movie when he found out a truth about something, and it just dropped completely.
Yeah, that was
within
good.
2 seconds.
Yeah.
There was a part of me though that thought I was kind of confused that he didn't try to fake it a little longer before realizing, oh, I've been caught here. I just thought it happened so fast because usually when you're in a spot where you're faking something and it looks like you've been had, that you try to smooth talk your way out of it, but he immediately just went, no, really.
I actually thought that was kind of realistic considering the circumstances. That felt like it made sense to me.
Yeah,
that choice did.
Interesting.
And it also fit with the way that Linklater directed this thing. It goes. There's no slow spot. There's no dragging this out, right? It's bang, bang,
look
bang,
at what? How many minutes of the movie, Ken, is he playing the first hitman character? I mean, it's off to the races within just a handful of minutes, probably.
Agreed.
And so that fit with how he made the movie. The other thing that I didn't mention that I should have, if Mr. Severe is listening, this movie is also part of a kind of a little trend that we're starting to see, which is the return of sex to American movies.
Congrats on the sex, America.
Nice.
Yes.
Good to see it back.
Because it had largely disappeared, and now you had, what's the 3 tennis player?
Oh, Challengers. Zendaya.
And there have been several others that it's starting to come back. I don't know why, but it's clearly a notable trend. And the other thing, one last thing, other interesting thing about Powell is he has not succumbed to you've got to do a Marvel movie.
Because he definitely has the look. You could see him being a Captain America,
put on a
or
spandex suit.
Exactly. You could definitely see him do it. And in fact, I'll be honest with you. When I opened up his IMDb, I kind of expected that I would have found, that he was, X-Man 7 in one of the movies or something like that. But he had
X-Man 7.
Well, you know what I mean?
Favorite hero.
Not like one of the mainline guys, but like one of the, because all the superhero movies now are it's like a battle royal where it's like 18,000 superheroes in one movie. I thought maybe he would have played one, but he hasn't.
No.
So credit to that.
He did technically suit up in Spy Kids 3.
He did suit up in Spy Kids 3.
Very
His
memorable.
character name in that is the long-figured boy, by the way.
Never saw that movie.
I loved that movie. I watched all of those movies.
That tracks. What did you think
Great
of the movie, John?
It was good. It was really good. I was going to ask about what we thought of, speaking of sex, what did we think of the female lead? Is it Adria Aronia?
Yeah.
Aronia? The the female lead.
I thought that she played off him very, very well.
Absolutely.
You know, she shows up and I mean, obviously a hot woman shows up in a movie. You're like, oh, I bet she is going to play a part in this movie now moving forward.
Yes.
And I thought that she answered the bell for the entire plot moving forward. You know, trying to figure out what's going on with this guy. The relationship that she had with her, not really ex, because they were still technically together, and all of the problems that arose from that. But yeah, I just thought that she was very, very good, whether it was playing off of him or just some of her individual moments as well.
The interesting part that I found about that actress is I kept thinking that I've seen her in so many things before because she just has that kind of acting style, I guess. There's something about, and I looked into it. The only movie I've ever seen that she was in is Six Underground, the Ryan Reynolds movie.
Mm-hmm.
But she just has
I haven't seen any of her movies.
She just has such a vibe about her. Like obviously a professional, but like she comes off as bigger than she is. And I hope that this springboards her.
Oh, wait, never mind. She was in Andor. Oh, I forgot about that.
I hope that this springboards her into bigger things because she definitely has that kind of feel about her.
Yeah.
Yes. And she's plenty easy on the eyes.
Yep.
The other
it's
thing,
okay to acknowledge these things, Nick.
Yes, it is. I mean, she's in the movie in part for that reason. And the other thing that struck me, and this is just old movie critic thing, she wasn't 21. She's in her 30s. He's in his 30s. Feels way more realistic than most of the time when you see this kind of movie and the guy's 40 and the woman's 20, right?
Right.
That happens a lot in movies too, where guys write and cast themselves as the lead too, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, and I mentioned this character earlier, Jasper, Austin Emilio. I thought that guy played that character very, very well. Sleazy, scumbag cop.
You weren't quite sure what his motives were.
Gets suspended. And he has a moment later in the movie that is very, very good. Because he knows that something is wrong.
Yes.
The whole time.
Well, he knows something is wrong, but he's also trying to get his job back.
That's also true. Yeah, because he's lost his job.
Because Gary takes his job because he got suspended.
Yeah.
And you have to have him, right?
Definitely.
If you don't have him, you don't have a lot of what do you want to call it? Dramatic tension in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And so he has to be good, but you have to have that character, right? For multiple reasons. And then, what happens at the end, there's a lot of, you have to suspend your disbelief.
Of course you do.
I like how they handled that loose end or whatever you want to call it, by the way. How quickly that problem was solved.
And again, that's why the movie kind of gets into like, okay, this is really what's happening? But I enjoyed that because I thought that it fit. I mean, it's about a guy who pretends to be a hitman and is able to invade all these characters, and it's like it's a ridiculous premise, but it's really, really fun.
And it's a movie star movie because you're watching it to watch him do that.
Yes,
right. And you don't care so much about the ridiculous premise. And that's why it's kind of an important picture in that way.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, this film, which by the way is on Netflix, Hitman is our movie this week in the movie club. Netflix, the acquisition rights were $20 million. It was the largest. This debuted last September at the Venice Film Festival. It was the largest film deal in that year's festival. It didn't do much at the box office, but it really made all its money back and then some by the streaming rights sold to Netflix.
And they only played it 2 weeks in select theaters as well.
Right.
For reasons that some in the movie industry are baffled about, because it's obviously gotten enough attention on Netflix that maybe if they'd actually done a real campaign for it, it might have done something theatrically.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this a lot, Kent, with how movies are released today. And we all know that, obviously it's the blockbusters that go to the theaters, and then all of these other films kind of do it this way. Could you foresee something here in the next couple of years where a film like this, or something that doesn't right now fit the oh, this definitely has to be in the theaters first for X number of weeks. Could you see a scenario where someone's going to give it a shot and say, hey, let's try to do this the old school way and see if we can generate some more attention at the theaters? Or is that ship sailed and people have now changed their viewing habits so much that films like this are just going to be stream not only, but stream almost only?
The answer to that question is, I think if you have a couple more of these sort of hitman examples where you create a massive hit on streaming that you didn't give enough time to play in the and they can see they've got that kind of a movie, I could see Netflix and Apple in particular taking that shot.
Yeah. Just seems like people don't want to go to the theater anymore. Is really what it comes down to.
And that's really what I'm looking for.
You go to a movie, you have to put your phone away. People don't like to do that.
Which is kind of nice if you do want to go to a movie now because nobody's in
nobody's on their phones.
It was great.
But if you continue to just lose the audience,
which is not great.
Yeah, then why will theaters remain open?
Right. I just because
which is sad.
It is, because one of the things about going to the movies is you're getting out of the house.
Yeah, and you get a
even
different
though
experience.
You're going back inside somewhere else.
You get a different experience.
But you are getting out of the house. You're getting a different experience. You got the communal experience, especially if it's a
comedy.
Oh
my gosh.
Where, because I mean, seriously.
Something About Mary for you.
I think of Something About
Dodgeball
Mary
for me.
or Anchorman or whatever, where it's like, man, this movie hit better.
Yeah, horror movies.
Because I was in a crowd of people when I saw it the first time. Same thing with Rocky IV.
Yeah.
Rocky IV, I mean, the place was going nuts. It was kids basically all my age, middle school, just going crazy the first time. He's cut. And I guarantee you that movie would not have resonated like it does with me today if the first place I saw it was on television instead of in the theater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
100%. I do think there's evidence that people will go to theaters. Obviously, people go to the theater for the blockbuster event movie, action movie, Marvel movies, whatever Star Wars. They'll go to that. And then you have the little kid audience, as I call it. Go try to see Inside Out 2 still. It's going to be full of kids, right?
Yeah.
The Despicable Me, those. But what we're really talking about not being in the theaters are those mid-level movies that aren't sequels, that aren't franchises, that ain't right. If you can develop movie stars that can open movies like Glen Powell, and you give them the kind of a vehicle like Hitman, that could play in the theaters, right? That could get enough audience to play in the theaters.
Yeah.
So as you were saying, somebody's got to take that shot when they know they have the combination. Somebody can open a movie, a good movie,
Yeah, because I think back, to my childhood, a movie like Karate Kid, like Ferris Bueller's, those types probably today would have been on the streaming.
Oh yeah.
It wouldn't have been in the theater. And some of my favorite memories, yeah, sure. I saw Indiana Jones and I saw Star Wars, the blockbusters of my day.
But it's even those types
but
of
it was
movies.
those, it was Footloose. It was, hell, Back to the Future might have still ended up, maybe that's an exaggeration, but you know what I'm saying? It's just, there's this event that takes place and the movie hits better with you,
man,
when you're there. You've got your phone put away, you're not distracted by what's happening in the house.
And every time I go see a movie at a theater, I'm just reminded, oh, that's right, it's really fun watching something on a huge screen.
Yes,
it really is fun to watch a big ass screen.
Sound.
I was going to say, with the sound, and it's how it was originally created to be seen most of the time.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, some friends and I went to go see Fellowship at the AMC in Council Bluffs.
Nice.
And I've never seen those movies in theaters before.
Oh.
And I found myself even more engrossed in that movie, just with the giant screen and just being in that moment surrounded by that environment.
Yeah.
So there is something to be said. I also think we're missing a lot of movies that teenagers want to sneak into. That was still a big thing for me. Like, that was a big thing for me.
Like that we don't have movies that kids want to sneak into anymore.
Right. Like Project X, that was rated R. I was 16 when that movie came out. The only way I could see that is that my brother, who's older than me, took me to a theater back home that would not check your ID at like midnight on a weeknight, and we snuck in to watch it.
Nice.
I don't think we have those movies anymore. And
Well,
I think those movies are needed.
I mean, kind of what Ken said earlier, like people are having sex more in movies again. You know, apparently that went away for whatever reason, and now it's back. So maybe kids will be sneaking in.
I think
there is the internet.
I think this could have been a good sneak-in movie.
In
You have
some
to upload
states.
your ID now.